When he became Prime Minister in 2001, Honourable Presiding Member, I was a young Member of Parliament. I had just got elected. Of course, he didn't speak about federalism, but he did say many things, including signing a ceasefire agreement with the LTT, which at that time we supported. We went out of our way to protect him. When President Kumaratunga was being extremely hostile, we went out of our way to protect him. So as a young Member of Parliament who came for the first time to this House when he was Prime Minister, and who has been following his politics and his policies closely, I have no doubts, Honourable Presiding Member, as I say, he's probably the most experienced person to be in power to handle the present economic crisis. He's also probably the most experienced person who will tell you that there is nothing wrong with federalism. Well, he should not hesitate to say that to the Sinhalese people. Federalism is not separation. Quite the contrary. Federalism in this country will in fact ultimately result in unifying the country, a country that has been divided from the time the British left. Not because of the British, but because of decisions taken in this own house. So at a time when Sri Lanka has hit rock bottom, isn't it at least now the time that a president who has nothing to lose, I mean, he has already lost. He has become president by losing. So he has nothing to lose more. At least in these last days of his political career, for him to be a statesman and tell the truth that will ultimately be a legacy, that will be the foundations for a new beginning for this country. But he's not doing that, Honourable Presiding Member. And it is for that reason that when he made an impromptu or rather unspecified speech soon after he got back from the Global Environmental Conference, where he invited the Tamil parties, our party took up the position that there is nothing to speak with the President. He knows what the solution is. He knows more than anyone else in this House who belongs to the Sinhala community what exactly he has to do to find a solution. And as a basis for that beginning, at least he must be honest to the Sinhala people and say, look, if we want to solve the ethnic problem, then we have to go down the federal path. And it is only by solving the ethnic problem that we can afford to refinance the country in a way that we do away with this ridiculous expenditure on defense and other related matters. And it is only through that that we can actually invest in the future of our generations to come and our health, both of which are suffering. So our party's position has been and continues to be, Honourable Presiding Member, these debates regarding the annual budget and the economy becomes meaningless unless you are fundamentally prepared to change the Sri Lankan state. And if you don't have that vision, you are going to continue to waste money. Waste it because of your ignorance, or even worse, waste it because you have vested interest. As I said, for the first 75 years of this country, you have been finding scapegoats to line your own pockets. You're going to carry on that path for the further 75 years. And you can decide to do that. But then you can't expect us to be a party to that, Honourable Presiding Member. We have suffered enough. We have suffered enough. Surely you can't expect a new generation of Tamils who has seen brothers and sisters abroad who are doing tremendously well. whose income is more than this country's income. Surely you can't expect those people to just simply sit and say that, look, we'll take a little bit more for another 75 years or so. No. If you don't at least now rethink, not only for your own people, but also for us. We are not going to just simply sit and watch. We will make it a very expensive, wrong choice for you. We will. Honorable Presiding Member, we have no other choice. We have no other choice. And that means you will have to spend much more for defense. Is that what you want? Is that what you want? Today, not a single member in this House is talking about a separate state, but you're spending, you're increasing. I believe this time's defense allocation is 14% more than last time. It is your insecurities that will result in you pulling this country down further and further. Why? Because of the racism. And at best, because of the ignorance. So we will not be a party to it. Maybe members of this House will come and tell you, but the people on the ground are just not going to go on this way. And today it's only the Tamils, God forbid, in the way that you're treating the Muslims and the upcountry Tamils, that they also decide the same thing. And God forbid that the poor people of this country, the Sinhalese, ordinary people who you have rooked and who are ultimately paying today, will also rethink. Then you'll have a totally different scenario to deal with. Something very similar to what you had in the 80s. So it is in that context, Honorable Presiding Member, that we approach this debate on the budget. Since we are debating the budget, I would like to just say a few words on the very specific subject. I choose to make much more.
Honorable Member, you have another 3 minutes.
10 minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Choose to speak more detailedly under the ministries at the committee stage, but as far as policy is concerned, I will repeat what I have been repeating for the last 2 previous budgets, Honorable Presiding Member. The Northeast is a war-affected country. Almost 15 years after the war, it still remains a war-affected country. The President had visited the northern province over the last 2 days. He was in Vavuniya and Mannar over the last 2 days. He knows that. He more than anybody else knows that. And that means you can't pretend as if that war-affected Northeast can be treated on an equal footing with the rest of the country. So we have been saying that if those people of the Northeast are to in some way rebuild their lives, at the very least economically, and not fall even further down the precipice, then the Northeast has to be declared a war-affected zone. And there must be some protectionist measures that are applied so that the economy of the people can first be protected and be allowed to grow to a point where it can then compete on an equal footing with the rest of the country. We have been repeatedly asking that this be done even before we became members of this House 2 years ago. When the war came to an end, if ever President Wickremesinghe wishes to go back and see our critiques with regards to the annual budgets, we have been repeatedly saying that that is a must. And today, more than ever before, it's a must. Because the economy in the country is suffering, the ordinary people across the country are suffering, but the people of the Northeast, the average person in the Northeast is suffering 10 times over. 10 times over, at least. If there is no diaspora, Honorable Presiding Member, those people would have died of starvation during COVID, and especially now with the economic crisis. So you can't allow this to persist. You can't allow this to persist, and it is on that basis that I